Hello everyone and welcome to the Midday Brief. Over the next 60 minutes, here are some stories you should expect. Government and Hospital Pharmacists Association suspend a strike following pleas from the public. Also, a new Patriotic Party debunks allegations that it's the health of its 2012. The new Patriotic Party debunks allegations that the health of its 2012 flag bearer, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, is deteriorating. Chinese embassy says the Ghana Immigration Service repatriation of its nationals is affecting China-Ghana relations. A pressure group is resisting attempts by the PURC to increase utility tariffs. Now, Joy News reporter Jemfi will join us for more on the activities of the pressure group. Stay with me as I bring you details of these stories and many more. My name is Kemini Nyamani Amano. In our first story, members of the Government and Hospital Pharmacists Association have called off their 2-month-old strike. The pharmacists who work in public hospitals across the country went on a strike in April over their market premium on the single-spine salary structure. Now, the market premium of pharmacists has been a source of problem between GOSPA and the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission over the last 18 months. The Secretary of GOSPA, Franklin Echampo, revealed that a strike has been called off. He said the decision was taken at a national delegates meeting here in Accra. Now, according to him, members have considered that they have become aware of the various pleadings that have been made by the general public and their friends. And so, taking into consideration the court proceeding going on in which the National Labour Commission seeks to enforce its ruling, the option for them now is to suspend their strike and resume to work. And in our next story, the main opposition, New Patriotic Party, has denied claims that it is trying to cover up the extent of its 2012 flag bearer's illness. Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo left the country for the UK last 2 weeks for some engagements and medical checkup. His trip followed a Herald newspaper report that he had suffered a heart attack a day earlier. He was expected to back home last week but did not make it. The party's directive to its supporters not to troop to the Kotoka International Airport to welcome Nana Akufo-Addo, who arrives today, has sparked yet another bout of speculations that he is bedridden. The party General Secretary Owusu Afriyie has said this is absolutely not true. Now, Joy News Emmanuel Anta is currently at the NPP headquarters. He will join us on the telephone line to tell us exactly what the party has been saying at this press confab today. But while we do that, let's move on to some other stories where a male patient on admission at the Komfo-Anokye Teaching Hospital in Kumasi has committed suicide. The man, believed to be in his 30s, jumped from the hospital's 3rd floor to his instant death. The incident, according to XYZ News Ashanti Regional correspondent Isaac Bediakon Justice, happened in the morning of Tuesday, June 18, 2013. The hospital authorities have been left befuddled by the suicide. Its security post has handed over the matter to the Regional Police Command for investigation. Let's do some other stories now. The recent fire at the Makola No. 2 market here in Accra and the ongoing investigations have not only disrupted academic work for about 300 pupils of the private school. Now, earlier today, we sent our reporter to the area. He'll be joining us in the bulletin. But clients of the Living Clinic have also been affected, and the facility's tuberculosis patients, most of whom say they are afraid they might die from the condition, haven't had access to their medication disrupted for close to 2 weeks now due to the zoning off of the area. Now, Felix Akoyama caught up with one of the patients.
40-year-old Emmanuel Aiku Nunu recalls taking his last TB medication after the Makola No. 2 market caught fire.
Mama Rose, any doctor, no Mr. Crap, no. For this one, inside you. Akokoji eduna ba mai. By police one, any security men no more no. Omuma obi ama phone call inside no. Sorry.
He has been denied access to the drugs, which for him is a lifeline.
Mama beg to Nama, Madam Rose na koyene jumana. Ene ye bibli no. Ebe ha still na krapo haye. Oh, see na se akre hayo. Ena afi na mbeka so mbebie. Ena o nipa bewu.
Emmanuel was diagnosed with TB in April this year. He told me the last few days without his medication have been hell on earth for him.
Me so no pa me to me say me hunam nyina ye me ya me ti to me ye me ya pa ofanya agro me to me ye me ya ma na me we mu me ni mu nyina free so to me afi me na me num ay nyu ejane bi ando me ko.
His mother, Agnes Tete, shares her son's agony.
Miss Soma, mi ba no se bia obewu. Miss Soma no se bia bibi ben. Ti mi sraban. Ene no krofon mo gate nanu. No mama kwana mi san ko kedunu en family na onu.
Officials at the chest department of the Kolebu Teaching Hospital says Emmanuel and his mother's fears are not misplaced.
Our drug, every day the patient has to take the drug. We don't even omit one day or even holidays. All the holidays, Saturdays and Sundays, the patient is supposed to take his or her drugs. And when a patient hasn't taken the drug for 2 weeks, that means they are allowing the patient to become seriously sick, because the bacteria which we are trying to kill can multiply at any time. And for the past 2 weeks that the patient is not going to take the drug is very serious.
Emmanuel's ordeals represent the trials of other TB patients who take their medication from the Living Clinic.
The TB virus is getting more grounds in them, and they can even spread it to the environment because there are people who live within the community.
Officials at the chest department of the Kolebu Teaching Hospital wants authorities to grant access to the Living Clinic immediately.
The authorities should allow, even if it is one nurse, they should allow the nurse to go inside, collect the pin cards for the patient with their drugs, and then they can move. Without the pin card or our red card, they can't even hand over the patient to any other clinic.
For now, Emmanuel Ikununu is only hoping authorities grant him and other patients access to the clinic soon.
So we understand that the hospital is still closed, and my colleague Felix Koyama will join me here in the studio later on in the bulletin for. Right, and we hear the school is open. Now let's move on to some other stories. The Ghana Immigration Service has so far repatriated 269 foreigners as a result of the current clampdown against illegal mining by the Anti-Galamsey Inter-Ministerial Task Force. Now they include 218 Chinese and 51 Nigerians.
The Chinese ambassador to Ghana, Gong Jianzhong, expressed worry about the engagement of Chinese nationals in illegal mining in the country and noted, though the situation would not affect Ghana-China relations, some form of disharmony has been created.
We do not hope that this issue will affect the image of the Chinese in Africa. And I believe that through joint efforts, we will do our best to keep and to develop the friendship between China and African countries, the friendship between the Chinese and African peoples.
According to him, the embassy does not have data on the number of Chinese nationals in the country, since most had entered the country illegally. This, he noted, is affecting the ability of the embassy to track down on Chinese personnel engaged in illegal mining activities, and appealed to government to attach a human face to their operations to rid the country of the illegal miners.
We have asked the Ghanaian government to deal with the problem in especially carrying out the law enforcement operations in a mild, in a humane manner, so that the life and property safety of the Chinese nationals could be protected, and also facilitations could be given to the Chinese nationals who are willing to go back to China.
As a measure to educate Chinese nationals on the country's mining laws, the embassy has converted the 2006 mining law into Chinese, and this has been posted on the website of the embassy to serve as a guide to prospective Chinese businessmen. Meanwhile, a Chinese delegation led by the Deputy Director General of Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Q Zhenjing, is said to have held bilateral talks with Vice President Patriotic Mr. Arthur on the situation.
We have asked the Ghanaian government to protect the Chinese nationals, because there are reports of some robberies, some attacks against the Chinese nationals as well. And also we have asked the Ghanaian government, that is, we need to cooperate closely together so as to solve the issue at the source, at the root. And for all those issues, we have got very favorable responses from the Ghanaian government.
Officials have also indicated that all 202 Chinese nationals who opted for voluntary repatriation have paid the mandated 2,000 Ghana cedis and have already left the country.
You're still watching the Midday Brief, and Parliament today adopted an amendment to the $3 billion loan agreement between government and the China Development Bank. It was, however, after heated debate over the extent to which loans and agreements brought before the House are scrutinized, now prompting the intervention of the passage of the Master Facility Agreement, which was characterized with a lot of controversy and debate. Drew the attention of the Speaker on the need for a review of Article 981 Clause 5 of the Constitution, which states terms and conditions of any international business or economic transaction to which the government of Ghana shall not come into operation unless the said terms and conditions have been laid before Parliament and approved by a resolution. Now we'll take a look at the story later. You're watching the Midday Brief. I'll be right back. You're welcome back to the Midday Brief. Now, reported earlier that the Makola number 2 fire that occurred some weeks ago led to the closure of a school and a clinic. Now, in the report you saw earlier, the clinic was closed and a tuberculosis sufferer was concerned that his health could deteriorate. So this morning we sent our reporter Felix Akoyama to the area to find out if indeed these institutions are still closed or open. He's here with me in the studio to find out. He's going to tell us exactly what he saw. So tell us about what you saw when you went there.
Yeah, actually, you will recall that yesterday the Deputy Greater Accra Regional Minister, Isaac Van der Poy, visited the market. And I'm sure our story caught his attention, so he directed the security officials to open the school and the clinic to the public today.
And I think we have the pictures of those images you got this morning on the screen. So are the schools open, the school and then the clinic?
Yeah, the school is currently open and the kids are learning at the moment.
Tell us about activities in the area after the reopening.
After the reopening, initially this morning, some market women were around. I mean, the market women are also going to be allowed to start trading within the week. But so earlier, they only allowed those whose wares were not affected by the fire to salvage a few items they can salvage for now. Yeah.
And so what was the major concern? What is the demeanor of the people who work and live in the area like right now after such a raving fire?
I'm sure they have gotten over it. I mean, it's been hectic for them. I mean, losing all your wares, your life savings, it's been very challenging for them. But now...
How about, those are for the market women.
Yeah.
But then I'm talking about the school children who have gone back to school after they saw the fires on TV. How do they feel about going back to the same area?
They are eager to learn. And interestingly, I mean, ironically, you would expect that if classes are not in session, pupils as young as they are, some are even 5, 11, they would be happy or rejoice that, I mean, they are not attending school. But these kids were very worried, extremely worried, and it was, I mean, it was depicted in our story. They are very concerned that other peoples in other schools were learning, and they, I mean, were denied the access just because the market caught fire. But actually, their school was not directly affected by the fire.
Let's talk about the clinic also. How is patronage like at the moment?
At the moment, I mean, I can say that I didn't see any patient there because yesterday when the minister visited the area, some patients were allowed to enter to access their medication. If you recall from the TB story, they had been denied access to their drugs for close to 2 weeks. But yesterday they were able to access the facility. They've been given some drugs which will take them for a week, and so they are okay now. Now,
the Makala number 2 fire, the market rather, is a very popular market here in Accra. Are people there? Some people, you told me earlier, some people were selling their wares again, they're applying their trade. Are people there to buy?
There is not much activity around the area. I mean, that area is a very busy area, but because of the fire, I mean, it's difficult to really notice people around, but just a few of the traders are around trying to trade. Others too have their wares inside the markets, and so they are unable to trade until it is fully open to the public.
Right. Thank you very much, Felix. We're grateful for the information given us today. So we've been talking to Felix Akoyama. He was at the Makala number 2 market area, and he tells us that indeed the school and the clinic have opened, even though activity in the area is not as much as we would like to see. Now, moving on, Parliament today adopted an amendment to the $3 billion loan agreement between government and the China Development Bank. Now, it was, however, after a heated debate over the extent to which the loans and the agreements brought before the House are scrutinized, prompting the intervention of the passage of the Master Facility Agreement, which was characterized with a lot of controversy and debate. Now, this drew the attention of the Speaker on the need for a review of Article 181, Clause 5 of the Constitution, which states terms and conditions of any international business or economic transaction to which the government of Ghana shall not come into operation unless the said terms and conditions have been laid before Parliament and approved by resolution supported by the votes of a majority of all members of the House.
The amendments became necessary to correct some defects and shortcomings with certain clauses which greatly disadvantaged the state. Under the previous agreement, for instance, government through the Bank of Ghana would have had to transfer 70% of the commercial value of each crude oil lifting from the Jubilee field. Ranking member of the Finance Committee, Dr. Kotose, however, drew the attention of Parliament to Article 181, which mandates the legislature to conduct due diligence on such loans to minimize some of the errors which tend to lead to judgment debt.
Our law is very clear. You cannot take the money from the oil revenue and put it in an escrow account. Our law is very clear. So for the Chinese to give the impression that that is their interpretation, I find it very incredulous. But in practice, they are withholding disbursements. This is why we are cautioning that when you are negotiating with them, you have to be careful.
This led to exchanges between the finance minister and other members of the House.
Our Ghanaian experts got it right. It is the insistence of the international experts, including their local advisors, that is leading us into this situation. We drew their attention to the fact that you could not appropriate 70% of the ABFA to any debt service because of the provision.
But, Mr. Speaker, on the issue that is relating to, that we got it right, the Chinese got it wrong. If he is to be believed, why is it that noticing that they've gotten it wrong, we have gotten it right, we have to pay up to $295,000 for them, for something that they have done wrong? And that is not even counting the cost that the Ghanaian side would bear, would incur. That relates to the side of the Chinese, $295. Mr. Speaker, on parity of reasoning, if we also incurred $295,000, we're talking about something in the region of $600,000.
We don't have the requisite support services. You know, as a fact, Mr. Speaker, that when you go to other legislatures, you have experts who advise committees. Sometimes the experts are even more knowledgeable than the members, than the members of the executive. That's the point I'm emphasizing. Yes. And the time has come for us to also look at that.
The Speaker then intervened and affirmed the MP's position on the matter.
I want you to get that point. He himself had a similar experience with a committee that I belonged to when he was the Attorney General. And he came back and told me a very interesting story that he have to suspend sleeping up to 3 a.m. to correct those. Meanwhile, those things pass through expert hands. So he's talking from experience and should just take it on board to improve upon our performance.
The adoption and subsequent passage of the facility should now pave the way for Ghana to access the $3 billion.
Now, the main opposition New Patriotic Party has denied claims that it is trying to cover up the extent of its 2012 flag bearer's illness. Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo left Ghana for the UK last 2 weeks for some engagements and medical checkup. Now, Strip followed the Herald newspaper report that he had suffered a heart attack a day earlier. He was expected back home last week but did not make it. The party's directive to its supporters not to troop to the Kotoka International Airport to welcome Nana Akufo-Addo, who arrives today, has sparked yet another bout of speculations that he is bedridden. The party General Secretary Owusu Afriyie says this is absolutely not true. Now, he said Nana Akufo-Addo has been active since he left for the UK. Now, according to him, the 2012 flag bearer went to church on Sunday for the first week of his trip to the UK. And the Ghana Institute of Languages would, from July this year, introduce the teaching and learning of the Chinese language at its Kumasi campus. Dr. John Rex Amuzu Gajakpo, the director of the school, has announced. He said they would also set up a department of Ghanaian languages to cater for Ga, Akan, Krobo, Ewe, Akan and, well, I already mentioned that, and other local languages. He was speaking at a 6th graduation ceremony held for 318 students, including 53 foreigners. Dr. Gajek said given the growing influence of China as a global economic powerhouse, Ghanaians necessarily have to strive to achieve some level of proficiency in the Chinese language to foster trade. And according to him, the institute would continue to work with passion to tear down language barriers to promote unity, understanding and harmony among people. Right, so now I told you that we would go over to the NPP headquarters where the party is holding a press confab. You have heard of claims that the party's flag bearer was bedridden, and the party has denied that, and it's also asking its party members not to go to the Kotoka International Airport to receive Nana Akufo-Addo, who comes back to the country from the UK today. So let's find out what new the party has said. Emmanuel Lanta is my colleague, and he is joining us on the telephone. Hello, Emmanuel.
Hello, Kamini.
Right, what new thing has the NPP said today at their press confab?
Well, the press confab was at the Parliament House, not the NPP headquarters. And
right.
What the press conference was about was the judgment, the current judgment that is going on. The NPP minority in Parliament are calling for the Attorney General to apply to the High Court to order Woyome to deposit the sum of money paid to him in the court pending the final determination of government action against him. They are saying that if Woyome is not asked to pay the money into the court's account for the ruling, if by the time the court will rule that he is guilty or to refund the money, by the time he might have finished the money. And so they are asking that he pay the money to the court, that after the ruling, if he is okay, if he wins the case, the money will be refunded back to him. If he doesn't, then the state gets back his money. But if in the case the ruling goes against him and he says he's used the money, nothing comes done. The money, the state will lose the money. That's what they are saying. They are calling for. So all they are saying is that the Attorney General should apply to the High Court to request that after that Woyome pays the money to the court for the limit is given.
Right. Now, the party also, there have been calls for the head of Baton Ojoro. Did the party touch on that?
Well, I asked a question on that, and what they said was that they have left everything to the sole commissioner because the sole commissioner is working, and they wouldn't want to prejudge what his findings will be, and they are depending on his findings and recommendations, so that whatever the sole commissioner comes out with, they will agree to it and follow. That is all that they had to say about it. They didn't want to comment on it because the case is being investigated.
Now, all right. Just before I let you go, did the party confirm again if Nana Akufo Addo was going to be in the country today, or if he's even here in the country already?
They said he might be. That they didn't want to commit themselves, so they said he might be.
He might be.
Yes. So this is the little information I have from the Parliament.
Right. Thank you very much. Emmanuel Anta is my colleague here at Joy News. You're watching the Midday Brief. I'll be right back. You're welcome back. And moving on, Mensvik Grand Hotel has apologized for the scuffle involving a member of its management and journalists covering a distress action by the Ghana Revenue Authority last week. The Daily Guide reporter assaulted in the June 10 incident, Emilia Enenabe, has also since withdrawn the complaint lodged with the police.
The Mensvik officials explained their conduct on the day.
I was not angry. We were trying to prevent the media from entering into the room to cover what we were discussing, because it should be a discussion between we and the GRA, but not we and media. You understand? We don't have any problem with the media. We have problem with GAR, and then we're trying to sort that issue indoors. But to our surprise, whoever opened the door, a policeman chalked it for media to zoom what was going inside, which I thought it was not fair.
They nonetheless expressed regret.
We are sincerely very sorry
for the acts on the 11th of June 2013. This one goes especially to Emilia with the Daily Guide. We are sincerely sorry to the GR, to our media partners, to our clients all over the world, including the police services. That businesses like that is of its kind. It will come, it will go. But we want them to understand that we are partners in business. Whatever that happened, they should look over it and then come back to us to move forward to develop the country.
Emilia Ninabe confirmed she had accepted the company's apology.
The truth is that the man, the owner of the hotel, and the man who assaulted me, that's his brother, were here in my company, and I could see the remorse. I could see, and then he just said, "Oh, my sister, I'm sorry," and I could see that it was not intentional, as they have just said. So I decided that, well, I've pursued it enough. But on the other side, there was one part of me which said that no, you shouldn't let him go, because there's people who have done similar things to journalists and they are walking free. So that is why I called the police in to arrest him, even though he had come here to apologize. And then at the police station, he was told to report. He was arrested, his statement was taken, and then his brother came to bail him. And I thought I couldn't punish him enough.
The police say they will no longer pursue the case following the withdrawal of the complaint. Abigail Adumakwentri for Joy News.
Our government has welcomed calls for the need for a council for higher education and research solely dedicated to the core of business of universities and institutions of research. Minister of Education, Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman, who was speaking at the opening of the first Ghana-France Higher Education Conference, said recent developments in the sector and the emergence of more institutions of higher learning also necessitate a review of the mandate and operational range of National Council for Tertiary Education. You're watching the Midday Brief. When I return, there's more news. 2 billion Ghana Cedis is expected to be spent on fuel subsidies by government this year. Now, this is irrespective of the removal of subsidies on petrol, diesel and LPG a couple of weeks ago. Last year, government spent 809 million Ghana Cedis on fuel subsidies, about 0.5% of GDP. According to the Bank of Ghana, the total outturn of petroleum subsidies last year represents 33% of total domestic finance capital expenditure. Head of research at the Central Bank, Madam Grace Akrofi, says the gradual increase in fuel prices will not have significant effect on inflation. Now, she disclosed at a media seminar organized by the Institute of Financial and Economic Journalists, as well as the African Business Media. Meanwhile, civil society group ISODEC has reiterated its earlier assertion that fuel subsidies must not be removed. Right, so since the Pharmacists Association has decided to suspend its strike, we decided to go across the regions to find out if indeed the pharmacists are back at post. Let's start with the Ashanti region, and Mohammed Nuruddin is on the telephone line, Ashanti regional correspondent, to tell us exactly what he sees there at his post at the moment. Hello, Nuruddin.
Hello, Kemini.
So tell us about the pharmacists. Are they back to work?
Yeah, at the Patriotic Teaching Hospital, pharmacists are back to work and they are attending to patients here. Earlier, I met one of the patients who confirmed to me that they have given her drugs, and some of them are here in a queue to take their drugs home. So for here, pharmacists are back to work. They are back in their numbers.
Right. Now, is that a general assessment of the region, or is just for the Komfo-Anokye Teaching Hospital? Is that what is happening across the region?
That is exactly what is happening at the Komfo-Anokye Teaching Hospital.
Right. And you remember that concerns were raised as to drugs that may expire as a result of the close to 3 months strike. Were you able to gather any information as to how, if there have been any drugs of that sort, how they are being managed and work generally at the hospital?
Yeah, I have not been able to gather that, but it was only some of the patients who took their prescription last month were asked to go and then come the next month. Some of them had the date on the prescription, and they were asked to go and then come next month, because if they decide to give them drugs now, that means they would incur loss because that month has expired, and there's nothing they can do about that.
You mean persons who are on the NHIS?
Yes.
And have to take medicines from the dispensary?
Some of them were given prescription last month.
Right.
So they came with that prescription. So they were asked that they should go and then come next month. Some were given 3 months prescription. So the first month has expired, so they would have to go and come for the second month.
Right.
They are told that if they give them the past month, they would incur some losses. So they wouldn't do that. So they advise them to go and make photocopies of the prescription and come.
Right.
So that next month they would be given those drugs.
But Nuruddin, that's interesting. How have some of these patients reacted to this directive or direction from the pharmacist? We can't give you medicine now because we'll incur costs. So go home and then come back next month.
One lady, old woman, was not happy when I met her. When I met her, she was complaining that she would have to go and buy the drugs, because they advised her to go and buy the drugs and then come for the last 2 months drugs that they are supposed to give her.
Right.
So she wasn't happy, and she was thinking that that would be an extra cost for her. So those who were asked to go really were not happy with the decision that the pharmacists took.
Right. Thank you very much. Mohammed Nuruddin is our Ashanti regional correspondent, and indeed in the Ashanti region, pharmacists are back at post. Let's move on to some other stories while we prepare to get to the other regions to ascertain the state of dispensary work in our hospitals. Now, the Ministry of Energy and Petroleum has signed a memorandum of understanding with General Electric to boost the country's power generation capacity. Under the MOU, GE will be facilitating the development, financing and technical partnership required for the implementation of an incremental 1,000 megawatts of power in collaboration with the government over a 5-year period.
The agreement is in line with government's objective to increase the country's generation capacity to 5,000 megawatts by 2016. The Minister of Energy and Petroleum, Emmanuel Amakofibua, commended GE and assured them of government's commitment to collaborate with private investors in the energy sector.
And on our part as government, we are going to work with them to cut through all the delays and the bureaucracy and make sure the processes of licensing, of reaching a power purchase agreement, getting a great license and all of that is in place for us to make sure that that project comes on stream on time. So this MOU commit the two of us to work together to ensure that that project comes on stream.
The 1,000 megawatts project, which will introduce the power park concept, should lead to lower generation costs. GE's vice chairman expressed gratitude for the ministry's commitment and pledged to ensure prompt delivery.
Don't underestimate the importance of the work that the President, the Vice President, the Minister has done to establish this as a priority project. It makes it easier for companies like ours to line up, put the resources in, and provide real results.
How long is this project?
The Minister also explained how the project will be implemented.
The 1,000 megawatt will not come at once. It will be incremental. I think the idea is a 400, and another 200, and we are looking at just setting up a power pack where all of these projects will be there. But we are also going to work with them to explore other fuel options like CNG and LNG options, and also to make sure that that this whole project is fast-tracked.
In a related development, 2 agencies under the Ministry of Energy and Petroleum, the Bulk Oil and Transportation Company Limited and the Volta Lake Transport Company Limited, have also signed MOUs in the storage and transport of petroleum products to the northern region. Under the terms, the Volta Lake Transport Company Limited is expected to operate and maintain the facilities for and on behalf of both to ensure transportation of bulk petroleum products from its depot at Akosombo to another at Buipe.
Now let's do some international news. And about 9 children have been killed by Islamist militants in Nigeria. And United States President Barack Obama has called for cuts in U.S.-Russia nuclear weapons supply to Syria. Sports Michael Essien is set for talks with GF executives about his return to the Black Stars.
Michael Essien says he needs to sort things out with the Ghana Football Association before he can confirm his return to the national team. The 30-year-old claims there are a lot to talk about before he can end his self-imposed exile from the national team. The Chelsea midfielder has been away from international football since recovering from a career-threatening knee injury 2 years ago. Essien wanted to concentrate on club football to regain his assertiveness. He last played for the Black Stars in June 2011 in an Africa Cup of Nations qualifier against Congo at the Baba Yara Sports Stadium. For some, it may pass as overly ambitious, but Ghanaian Olympian and Commonwealth gold medalist Raymond Na has thrown a challenge to multiple world champion Floyd Mayweather Jr. after bouncing back from a 2-year hiatus. Na made these comments while basking in a big dose of confidence after a unanimous win over welterweight Ronald Cruz in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania on June 14. The win comes as a big relief to the camp of Na, who has just weaned himself out of a torrid period of avoidance by potential opponents, managerial and promotional issues.